Welcome to Finance Deep Dive. We're seeing some pretty alarming headlines coming out of the US labor market lately. So in this video, we're going to look past that surface level panic to figure out what's really going on behind the numbers.
The latest data has a lot of people asking this very serious question. And when you first look at the numbers, you can kind of see why they're concerned. Let's dig into the data that's really driving all this fear.
So, get this. In August, the economy added just 22,000 jobs. That's just a fraction of what was expected. A huge slowdown. At the same time, the unemployment rate actually climbed to 4.3%. That's the highest it's been in about 4 years. And to top it all off, the number of people filing for unemployment for the first time is rising, hitting around 235,000. So, okay, fewer jobs being added, more people out of work. It's pretty easy to see why the headlines are so negative, right?
But here's the thing. Those headlines, they don't really tell the whole story. The reality is actually way more nuanced. It looks like the market is cooling down, not crashing. Let's break down what that actually means.
The key distinction here is between a market that's crashing versus one that's just cooling off. A crash, that means mass layoffs, widespread job cuts, real economic pain. What we're actually seeing is more of a cooling effect. Companies are hiring less, they're being more cautious about expanding, but, and this is crucial, they aren't firing people left and right. Economists actually have a name for this. They call it a low-hire, low-fire environment. Think about it. Companies are hesitant to bring on new people, but they're also holding on tight to the workers they already have. This isn't a sign of panic, it's a sign of caution. And this isn't happening evenly across the board. We can see a really clear split in the economy. You've got sectors like healthcare and government that are holding up pretty well, while others like construction, manufacturing, and retail, well, they're definitely showing some signs of weakness. Now, just as we're trying to get a clear picture of this cooling market, there's a major plot twist that's making everything much harder to read.
Yeah, there's a really big factor that's disrupting the normal flow of information, and it's casting a huge shadow over all the data we've been talking about.
And that complicating factor is the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. It's creating this thick fog of uncertainty at the exact moment when we need clarity the most. Because of the shutdown, the official data we rely on from agencies like the Bureau of Labor Statistics is getting delayed, or in some cases, there are just gaps. We're missing key pieces of the puzzle. And this means the very people who are supposed to steer the economy, like the policymakers at the Federal Reserve, well, they're essentially flying blind. They're being forced to make these critical decisions without the timely, accurate data they need. And as you can imagine, this data blackout puts the Federal Reserve in an incredibly tough spot. The stakes are getting higher pretty much every single day. Without clear data, some officials are already sounding the alarm. For instance, New York Fed President John Williams is already calling for interest rate cuts next year. The idea there is to make borrowing cheaper, encourage more spending, and hopefully prevent a more serious downturn. So this leaves the economy facing two very different paths. The dream scenario is a soft landing, where growth slows down gently without a major recession. But the big danger is hitting a tipping point, where an external shock, like this government shutdown, could push the cooling economy right over the edge into something much worse. So the ultimate question this video leaves us with is a big one. With a cooling market and policymakers flying blind, will the U.S. economy manage to pull off that delicate soft landing, or are we headed for something much more painful? Thanks so much for watching this video. Hey, if you've enjoyed the content and found it valuable, please don't forget to subscribe. It seriously motivates us to keep posting. We'll see you next time.